So I get some little girl that I'm hoping is going to be my girlfriend. We drive this little Paris, Texas town, and they hand me this board with this tough coat on it. It's like nylon mesh. And they go, so all you got to do is break the board. You want to practice one? I said, I don't think so. It'll be all right. I'll just do it. My friend's back there getting dressed. So I take this board and I start bashing it over my head. And there's like 10 people watching.
Yeah.
And it got this little rope. Then I look up and there's like 100 people watching. You know, I'm just banging this board and it won't break. And then finally, my friend comes out and I do a slide and step across the side kick, doesn't break, flying side kick, finally break through and kicked him in the face and the whole deal. Find out that it was called tough coat was their stuff, and you could break the board but not the tough coat. And if I'd flipped the board over the other way, it had broke her first time. But I had this backwards board, and you know, so my head's all swollen, my eyes are black. The girl's totally unimpressed. In fact, I lost her to a friend of mine like the next week.
Grandmaster Tim Kirby is one of the most well-recognized names in Texas karate history. He is the youngest 10th degree black belt in the Allen Steen system, known for its excellence in the competitive ring and its effectiveness on the street. He is most proud of his coaching expertise, guiding multiple students to championship titles during his 40-plus years of martial arts experience. Grandmaster Kirby provides a unique and incomparable depth of experience in teaching people of all ages how to protect themselves. 8th degree black belt Grandmaster Diane Reeve Kirby has over 35 years of martial arts experience. Recently retired from teaching, she was the sole owner of Vision Martial Arts Center for over 27 years and holds black belts in 4 styles. She was honored as the 2015 Taekwondo Female Master of the Year by the USA Martial Arts Hall of Fame, inducted into the 2014 Masters Hall of Fame, and most recently named a winner of the 2020 BBC Inspirations Award. Grandmaster Kirby has dedicated her martial arts career to the empowerment of women and children.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Glad to be here.
We've had Miss Reeve Kirby on before, and we're very excited to have you back on, ma'am. But we got your husband today as well, which is like a 2-for-1 awesomeness. I know you've been doing martial arts for a very long time. Before we started, we were talking a little bit about your accolades, and they are very impressive. You know, many-time champion, grand champion, you know, 9th degree black belt in karate. So we're very excited to have both you guys here to give us your expertise on demonstration, which is the topic for today. And we wanted to keep things a little bit more focused, give you guys a chance for you to talk a little bit more than me talking, because my students hear me every day and they know what I feel about most of these topics, but they don't know how you feel. And that's what this show is all about, is getting that outside perspective, you know, that is really important. So we're not so insular, that we're really trying to be the best martial artists that we can be. So with that said, Jesse, what's our first question for these fine this fine couple here?
Yes, sir. Number one, when you think martial arts demonstration, what's the first thing that comes to mind, and why do you think that is?
You want to go first?
Go ahead. Ladies first.
When I think martial arts demonstration, I think the first thing I think is demo team. In the 27-year history of my school, we had a number of different demo teams. They were typically adults and kids both. And I guess the difficulty of keeping that going is it was a real issue for us, as we'd have a lot of gigs for a while and then it would kind of fade out. And, you know, then people would lose interest, et cetera. And then, you know, we'd have a deal and there'd be another demo team. And so it was just kind of how it went. He has a lot more experience with demos than I do. So you go.
I guess, you know, when I think of the demonstration, I think of entertainment. And I want the audience to be moved and to try and remember the show. Early on, I know that we had the wrong approach with a lot of contact and stuff like that. That's not really what the audience, they like seeing it, but they don't visualize themselves doing it. So there's that fine line of entertainment and them seeing themselves out there as well without fear or what have you.
Absolutely.
Wow, there's more questions that come off both of those. I mean,
Okay.
so when you're putting together your demonstration team and it's kind of coming in waves, and I can kind of see that happening. You know, I've been running schools for a long time and I've had demo teams before, and it is kind of like, you know, you get these waves of top students and then they kind of move on to other things, and you get another wave of top students, and every time the wave is cresting, you know, you're like, okay, let's take it to the next level, you know, with these guys. So what did you find was the most effective way to keep that momentum moving forward with your team?
There were a couple of things that we did. First of all, I tried to get some impressive opportunities. You know, now before I had my school, when I was at the Garland YMCA with Mr. Yates, we did a demo at the Korean War Veterans Memorial, the opening of Korean War Veterans Memorial. That was 1995. I hate to tell you, I was just 2 years old. No, but you know, that was the highest level demonstration, but it wasn't my team. That was actually, you know, Mr. Yates' team. I was one of the black belts on the team and one of the coaches, but that was really impressive. A lot of times it was a Boy Scout camp out, or it was an elementary school Halloween fair kind of a thing. We've done things at local little small town fairs and venues and things like that. I guess I kind of lost track of the question. Sorry, I wanted to stay on topic here. But yeah.
But the question was just how do you keep that momentum going?
How to keep the momentum going is finding enough stuff to keep them you know, active and interested.
Yeah.
Practices help. You know, the better you get at practicing, I think the better, more excited that they're going to be, and changing it up a little bit, and, you know, letting one individual or another individual shine is a way to keep up interest.
We've talked about this topic a little bit in the past, and one question that came up in the past was, do you do a demonstration team continuously, or do you plan an event and then assemble a team and then train for that event and then disband the team and do it again? What was better in your experience?
Well, in my experience, you know, having just enough talented martial artists within your school to plug different people in pretty easily is good. But when I do a big show like the Texas Rangers or the Dallas Mavericks, you know, there's a lot of practice required, and we really went after it in a big way. So, you know, but I always tried to keep enough activity. I mean, actually, when I opened my first karate school, there was a little mall next to my karate school. And on Saturdays, me and my best student, we'd go in there and just start doing one steps, you know, just the two of us. Before you know it, we've got 50 people standing around and we're signing people up. But I was bolder back then when I was younger. You know, I just walk in anywhere and ask them about doing a demonstration. Any school I drove by, you know, we tried to get in all the schools out here, that type of thing. So I think they're important. I think they do a lot of getting your name out, but also it's fun for your students. And some of them aren't into competition, but they sure don't mind getting out and, you know, showing off a little bit. I mean, I looked at competition the same way. Entertainment, you know, my job was to make someone want to come back and buy a ticket to watch karate fighting, because it can be really exciting when done well. So I think just both of us, you know, just keeping the activity going. There's little demos, big demos. They're all kind of fun to do, and everyone's a different experience, that's for sure.
I have a funny story to tell you if you have just a minute.
Stories are the best.
This is while I was still training at the YMCA, and our demo team was, Mr. Yates called me up on Friday night and said, we're doing a demo tomorrow at UTD, and there's going to be about 400 or 500 people there, and just show up and do what I say. that was it. And it was me and a couple of black belts that belonged to Mr. Yates. And we went out there and did one steps and a couple of forms. And I think Ulster did nunchucks, and that was her demo team. That was it.
I've been there. Yeah.
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 I've been there. I think everyone's had that experience. That's part of the martial arts. Just do whatever the instructor tells you to.
Right.
Weirdest things.
Yeah, just the experiences. I remember one of our Texas Ranger ones. I've got this knife and I'm going to attack this guy with a knife, and then I drop it, right there on the ground. These things happen in life. And you just adapt and move on. I can remember my karate teacher. He was really known for being a tough guy. And like one time this kid was asking, doesn't it hurt when you hit me? He said, well, let me see that belt buckle you got. He had a big old bass belt buckle in the 70s. He took it and banged it over his chin. It shattered in half, and kids start crying. My grandpa gave that to me. It's just stuff that happens, but that's what makes it fun. We're talking about
It's fun. That's amazing.
Some stories to tell.
We got a really talented student. In fact, he has his own stunt company now. And when we did the demo for the Rangers, he was a little guy, and we made him the star, man. He just loved it, stand out there, just taking in all the applause and everything. Then a couple of years later, we started doing them for the Mavericks, and he'd gotten older, and I had this real cute little kid, and I made him the star. And then made Fred the bad guy. And he told me not too long ago, he's resented it all these years. And all those people just hated him as a bad guy. He wanted to be the good guy. And I'm like, good gosh, Freddie. But he's actually, does some stunt work for Sylvester Stallone. He's his double and stuff. So he's really made it. And for quite a while, he had the biggest karate school in Dallas, in Highland Park, the most influential part of that.
Happen if you join a demonstration team.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
We won't get there, but we'll aspire towards that. That sounds exciting.
Sure.
In fact, one day I was in there and he's working with some guys on a movie deal, and then he looked at me and goes, I learned all this stuff from you, which is kind of cool to hear, even though it's not true. but it's just getting out there being a showman and getting your students to excel at that. Of course, a lot of people that like speaking in public, and I love it. And so it's just, there's different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely.
If I can hop in here, so moving on kind of to the next question, but it's related to everything we've been talking about. Entertainment value, finding the right students, giving those students the opportunities to shine. When it comes time to put on that performance, what are the qualities that make a great martial arts demonstration, whether that's in front of a crowd of 30,000 or in front of a crowd of 50 at the mall? What
I think the most important quality, I think, is discipline. They need to feel the discipline. If you got kids standing and one's wiggling, and you just can't have that. I mean, that's really what we sell in a lot of ways. That's what separates martial arts from so many different activities, is just the discipline that they'll feel, and of course attitude, but that'd be my number one thing.
I think as a coach, I would think that my take on it would be, the narration of it all. And I kind of got that from my instructor, Mr. Yates, but he'd go into a little bit of the history, not a whole lot, but a little bit, so that you kind of get a flavor and then a progression. And then as we do the demo, then we tell a little bit about why we do that, and maybe even the character development attribute that helps promote, so that people understand that martial arts is not just about fighting, but it's about character development.
Yeah, you're gonna say something, sir?
So, you can take it to all kinds of different levels and approaches. One of the coolest demos that I ever put on was for a Charlie's Angels movie when I had my school in Round Rock. But I had one of my black belts. I had used all ladies, Charlie's Angels for the demo. And my ex-wife, who's really good, was running the demo. And I stuck one of my black belts in the audience, and he'd stand up and act like he'd had a couple of drinks and say, I know a little karate myself, and I don't think any of you gals are any good. I'm pretty sure I can whoop you. And she'd tell him to come on and, you know, beat him up. And it was so cool to just sit back in the audience and listen to the way that people reacted to what we were doing. And of course, at the end, she'd tell him, oh, this is Wes. He's one of our black belts, and this was all set up and everything. But it was so, there was one time she did a step across side kick and kicked that kid in the throat. It just made me wince. But every time people thought it was real. And, you know, I mean, just getting creative with it, you know, and it's always kind of made it fun to me.
What I'm hearing from you guys is so great, because we just went to a big tournament. Korea National Sports University is one of the best places to learn Taekwondo in Korea. And we had them come over here and they did a big open, the President's Open. And we went there and there were all these teams from all over the country. And then the team from Korea, and they were just doing these insane demonstrations. I mean, you know, getting launched 30 feet up in the air and breaking like 7 boards at once.
Wow, yeah, the kicks they can do nowadays and stuff.
And we brought our students to inspire them, you know, hey, this would be great. You guys would be inspired on our talent team. And they'll come back like their heads down and like,
Never
we're
never be able to do that.
you know. And I'm like, no, guys, it's not about you know, what you can do, it's how you do it. You know, it's about having that discipline. You know, you can do a good front kick really well and cleanly, and that can be impressive. It doesn't have to be this crazy acrobatic thing. And so what I love about
the guys like us, that's more impressive. You know?
Yeah.
When you can take basic stuff and make it look good.
Yeah, what I love about what both of you guys are saying is you're kind of saying that discipline is the most important thing. And, you know, a lot of times I look at my demo team, like, guys, we're not even at the level where we need to even worry about those acrobatic things, because you guys need to first just focus on being like, boom, present, like 100%. That's the most important thing first. And I really agree with what you're saying there. And then the second thing, which was kind of what you're talking about, is like that narrative is also very important. What's the story you're telling? Like you were kind of saying how, you know, this guy comes down off the bleachers and starts a fight, and no one even knows that it's a real that it's it's real. Like, that's what a compelling narrative is that, you know. It's like the stories are always so much better. It kind of reminds me of when I was in college. I had a club, and we always thought it'd be really cool. You know, they talk about like flash dances. If I had like a dance club, we had a martial arts
flash mob.
We were like a flash fight, like in the middle of the
right
quad, you know, and like it'd be so cool. But we were afraid we would
breaks out. Yeah.
You would probably get a lot of cell phone videos out of that.
Yeah, well, it was a different time then. Now it
right. No.
Well, yeah, it was. But and one thing that, you know, I've always stayed away from in demos actually is board breaking. Just because
it can go wrong.
If the board doesn't break, that's what people remember. And usually when a board doesn't break, it's because the guy holding it's more responsible than the person striking. Or I remember one time this guy said, Greek told me to go do a demo at this hardware store, and I was just going to break a board every hour, and they'd pay me like $300. So I get some little girl that I'm hoping is going to be my girlfriend. We drive this little Paris, Texas town, and they hand me this board with this tough coat on it. It's like nylon mesh. And they go, so all you got to do is break the board. You want to practice one? I said, I don't think so. It'll be all right. I'll just do it. My friend's back there getting dressed. So I take this board and I start bashing it over my head. And there's like 10 people watching. Yeah. And it got this little rope. Then I look up and there's like 100 people watching. You know, I'm just banging this board and it won't break. And then finally, my friend comes out and I do a slide and step across side kick, doesn't break, fly side kick, finally break through and kick him in the face and the whole deal. Find out that it was called tough coat was their stuff, and you could break the board but not the tough coat. And if I'd flipped the board over the other way, it had broke her first time. But I had this backwards board, and you know, so my head's all swollen, my eyes are black. The girl's totally unimpressed. In fact, I lost her to a friend of mine like the next week.
Oh my God! The first time I ever held like testing, I went to the hardware store to get wood, and I got it all cut up, and the guy says, well, what do you want? And I said, well, what do you have? And I can't remember the exact details of the conversation, but it's basically like, just go to town, cut me up some pieces, you know, and we come back with these pieces, and we're trying to break them. And I didn't even test them out, you know, I just hold them for my student, and they can't break it for the life of them. None of them can break it. And then I said, okay, hold it for me. And I hit it. and I don't even break it. And I'm like, oh my God. So then I do like a skip side kick and I break it.
But
I broke it in like the most ridiculous way possible. Like I'd never seen it break like that. And I realized it's because I cut them all the wrong way.
so you're kicking against the
They
grain.
were oak boards, so they were like ridiculously hard. And so like I learned a lot about like material types and the way you cut the board is really important.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I got a story kind of related. I had a bunch of boards in a sauna, a dry sauna I had in my school. And that little Freddie kid that ended up being the stuntman asked me, he said, no, I think it was Wes. He asked me, Mr. Kirby, why do you have those boards in there? I said, well, I'm cooking them for the demo this weekend, so they'll dry out and break real easy. He said, oh, okay. So then we do this demo, and the board won't break. And I have to take it and break it. And that kid yells out, Mr. Kirby, we should have cooked those boards a little longer. I just had to be there. I could tell demo stories all day, I guess.
Oh my God.
That's gotta get me quiet.
Well, it's always a mixed bag, just breaking things. And especially these days, you go to the hardware store and nothing looks normal anymore. Like you used to be able to get those like really cheap little patio tiles that you could just stack up. But everything's frou-frou-y, so you're breaking like
yeah
object, and you're like, I don't know if it's gonna break. I've never broken this before, but we'll find out.
I can just remember so many karate tournaments. And, they all had nighttime finals when I was growing up. So somebody was going to break something, and you get a lot of these guys, and they go drink, in between the finals, the elimination in the finals, and then get up there and watch a drunk guy try and blindfold himself and break a board for 20 minutes. Crazy stuff like that, and turning the boards the wrong way. So
that happened on my
purposely
black
won't
belt
break.
exam. My black belt exam was, there were like, I don't know, 12 people, but I was the only black belt going up. And I thought I'd just get mixed in with the brown belts, and it didn't happen that way. So the first thing they made me do, everybody else had finished their stuff, and the last thing they did was their board breaks. So they said, well, Reeve, you could go on up and do your board breaks first. And I had a four-person multiple break. And the first break I was going to do was a hammer fist. And I was so nervous, there was probably 25 people on the exam board. This is a little off the topic, but we're talking about board breaks. So anyway, this orange belt was holding the board, and I turned the board this way because I thought he had the grain wrong. And I hit that board with my hammer fist about 5 times. And finally, I looked at the exam board and they went, no, this way, and so I had bruises all the way up. So,
yeah, we've all seen that.
Everybody's had those experiences.
Except me, because I never punched boards. I always kicked them or did it with my head. Those two things I couldn't really hurt. Nothing in here to worry about.
That's pretty intense.
My foot's pretty tough, So.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so if I can hop in here, board breaking is something that a lot of people have misconceptions about. And when I talk to friends of mine, they say, are the boards real? It's always the question of like, is that real? And so I want to take this moment to kind of segue into what are some common misconceptions that people have about demonstration? One of them is this real? And that question always kind of perplexes me. But what else have you run into over the years that you've had to explain to people? This is what we do. This is how we do it. And
well, like an audience, a lot of times, especially if you do a demonstration on form, and it's hard for people to relate to how form is real and to see the importance of it, which we all know it's very important. It's the discipline, it's the perfection of movement for somebody just watching. Now, I think at demos, it's probably helpful if you do have the music with your form. It just makes it a little more entertaining, but I never was about really music. I like to try and make my own music, but it can add a lot to it. So the realism of that, and board breaking, it is real in the fact it gives us a sense of power, teaches us how to strike through stuff. But there's tricks to it. You know,
Yeah.
used to watch a guy break the iron pump handles, you know, and then right as you hit it, you just raise it up a little bit and let it hit that and then snap right in half. And it's a karate trick. There are karate tricks, but I think that's why I always liked lots of self-defense and lots of one-step stuff that's more
Some
relatable,
practical.
that somebody can see it and see how that would save their life, see how that would, you know, there's abstract things that we do in karate that they're really neat as martial artists, but as an audience,
Yeah.
maybe better to stay away from a little.
What I'm kind of hearing from you, it's like, well, is magic real? Like,
Yeah.
well, it's not real, but it takes a lot of skill to
It
do,
takes a skill.
you know, and I
Exactly.
think it's true with breaking boards. It's not exactly real. I mean, there are tricks and ways to do it, but it's also like, yeah, if I gave you an axe and used the back of the axe to try to break the wood, you're not going to break it. But if you turn it around, and you hit the grain with the sharp side of the axe, you're going to split it in half. So like, it's also, you could say it's a trick, and it's also like you just understand leverage and power better.
It's a skill as well,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And from the,
And-
yeah, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying from the uninitiated's perspective, what you can do is you can set it up in a way that uses those principles to maximize your power, that makes it feel like almost like a magic illusion for the uninitiated, so that they're even more impressed by it than they really should be. But let's be totally honest here. I have a lot of parents that come in and they actually think that if the kid does it right, he won't hurt his hand. And I'm like, no. You're going to hurt yourself no matter what. You're just going to hurt less if you break it on your first try. And they're always
Very
like,
right.
and I'm like, yeah, of course. It's like you feel it for sure. And I think that's an important thing to teach people. Once they realize that, they understand the power and the need for board breaking. And I'm sorry, I'm going into a little tangent here, but going back to what you were saying about, you know, cutting the boards in the right way, and everyone has these errors and problems when they're going up through the ranks and trying to break boards. It's like, that's the beautiful thing about board breaking, is it's so wild and random that you
Part of
can
the experience.
like, I mean, I've been breaking boards for 32 years, but I still do not underestimate the board when I break it, because I never know what happened. I don't know if it's been sitting in the woodshed for like 10 years and getting all pitchy.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it's got a big,
I've hit that board.
never know. You never know.
And some of those, everybody gets one of those every once in a while. And that's going back to what I said earlier, I think is the importance of the narration. When you're explaining why we do board breaking and things like that, that they understand what exactly the value of that is. It's not just getting boards for firewood. It's to teach people follow through, and it's to teach them the discipline, and it's to teach them the I'm going to get this done no matter what. It's the indomitable spirit of it a lot of times too. Yeah. So, and then they can relate to it better and understand it more. I don't know that it really helps a lot with the anxiety of them watching what would happen if I did that, you know, but maybe they don't get that far, you know, maybe they just go for the entertainment value.
I'll tell you that, and just some of the stuff that you watch these guys do 720 kicks, you know, 8 feet in the air, and like we were talking earlier, it's amazing to watch, but it's a little magical. And but again, my deal is if I'm doing a demonstration, I'm really doing it to sell karate, to get future karate students, to get people interested in martial arts instead of something else. And by keeping it a little more real or simple, like you said, taking that front kick and making it look purposeful and useful, to me has a lot more value than even entertainment wise, because I'll just get them to come back. It's always to get them to come back, not to scare them off. Like we used to do demos with so much contact and stuff, and people loved watching it. No, you didn't sign anybody up. That's a fine line, you know, that
and you can only
develop.
You know, every martial artist is going to have their best skills, right? And if you put all your time into learning how to jump up in the air and spin around and kick, you're not putting your time into developing good solid power in your kick when you're
Exactly.
standing planted on the ground, and timing and distancing and all these other really important skills for self-defense and stuff like that. So while it's very impressive and very admirable, and those people train many, many hours to achieve that level of acrobatics, it's not the only skill that we want to demonstrate. And that's why, you know, just doing a simple
Tell you,
punch can be really impressive too.
not to interrupt. The first time that when me and Diane first met, I came and did a seminar for her at her karate school, and then it wasn't too long after she had a demo at a scout outdoor meeting, and so she's little in stature and got this little voice, and her students were really good, but I hadn't really seen her do karate. And then she gets out there and does a one step, you know, a couple one steps, and it was so impressive. You know, it was just like the light switched and or intensity and focus and you know, it was basic. You know, it wasn't 360 turn heel kicks, but man, you know, it was the precision and the attitude that made it so impressive to me, and I always
You
remember
never told
that.
me that. Thank
Always
you.
remember that.
Just love it for
The backstory to that is I had just gotten out of a cast with a broken heel, and the kids were out there doing the demo, and I got madder and madder because they just looked sloppy. And I just was really unhappy with the way that the thing was going, and I got mad. And I'm like, wait, watch this. I'm going to show you how it's done. And that's why it looked like it did, was because I was out there being mad about it. And I think I fractured a bone in my foot because I was not really balanced well, but it was a good show after that.
That's always fun when you do your board break and everyone's like, wow, amazing. And you're like, yeah, but
Go to the hospital.
you can't show it. You know, you can't show it. So you just,
That's right.
The Jim Harrison fighting story where he made sure his opponent got one. They both had to go to the hospital, get stitches. Jim Harrison said, I don't care whatever happens. He gets one more stitch than I do.
staple it on.
Karate guys.
That's awesome. So Jesse, what do we?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've covered, I mean, so much of martial arts demonstration already. Maybe pivoting a little bit from the macro demonstration to the micro demonstration. Something we talked about on this topic on a prior episode is demonstration in the dojo, or demonstration in the dojo.
Like an introductory class thing or something
so
almost.
whether it's for the parents or for that new student, or for the students that have been there for many years, you know, what does it look like to bring that focus?
Or if you're like showing a technique, you know, before they go ahead and actually practice the technique, you know, or a combination or something like that.
I think that's what gets the kids excited, or actually the adults excited too, because if they see somebody that really knows what they're doing and is effective, and you explain it well to them, they want that. And at the same time that you're demonstrating it to the students, and there are adult students out there too. In my school, we had, you know, mixed classes, family classes, and things like that. But a lot of the parents of the kids were there and explaining the value of it. You know, it's not just about getting bruised, but this is the practical aspect of it, and this is how it's going to help, you know, change your life.
And again, within the school, the students, especially in a kid's class, your real audience to me is the parents. You know, if I sell the value of what I do to mom and dad, they're going to get Johnny there when he wants to sit on the couch, and because they see the value of what martial arts is. But you get a kid that's just dropped off and his parents never come in, and they never see the discipline going on, the encouraging going on, and that kind of thing. So to me, I was always performing really, you know, more for my parents. I want to get them hooked, because other kids nowadays, they're so easy to, even back then, you know, it's so easy to quit. And if you get mom and dad behind you, and that's only through demonstrating.
Well, not only that, but you demonstrate enough that they want to do it. That's
Yeah.
where you really
Mhm.
get a family and they'll stay with it a lot better.
Yeah, that helps as well.
Absolutely.
But like, the introductory program, again, that's more about respect and discipline. You really get those things going. You can't go wrong with those two things. And ask that parent what they want to see Johnny do. It's the same old stuff everybody, I guess we're all aware of as martial artists, but sometimes we tend to forget. Like, as a martial arts school owner, I think one of the most powerful things that I did pretty instinctively was say goodbye to everybody at the door. When people came in, I said hello to them,
Mhm.
but even more important, when they're leaving, because you can sense if there's something that needs, it's all about communication. That's a demonstration in itself, of the care I have for you as an instructor. And I don't know where I got off on that, but I think that was a major thing in retention that I developed really early on as I started teaching professionally when I was 16. And so Mr. Cox would always tell me, you got to read people and treat them as individuals. Especially, you don't want Johnny going home angry without a chance to, or his mom's leaving frustrated because he didn't get a stripe or something silly, Stuff that we can.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. Another word for demonstration might be presentation. And what I'm
There you
hearing
go.
is, whether you're doing a demo on the floor in front of the kids, you're greeting them at the door or saying goodbye to them when they leave the mats, you're showing how you present yourself to people. And that can be a very exciting and contagious thing to the parents and to the students, or it can be a very off-putting negative thing. And that's something that any good instructor puts a lot of time and attention into, is to make sure they're making those good impressions every single day on the mats.
And I think that's one of the fascinating things about martial arts, is because you never know who's watching you.
Mhm.
You never know who's watching you. And sometimes that's a really good thing, because I've had people come back and say, when you did this, that really made me impressed, or that really meant a lot to me, or whatever. And I'm like, when was that? And I'm not even aware that I did it, but it's how you come across, and the caring that you have for your students and all that.
And it's much like teaching. People don't realize the effect those demos have. You don't get the feedback. A lot of times as a teacher, you've made a real difference in somebody's life, but you don't necessarily know that.
Yeah.
I always think of like Joe DiMaggio. Somebody asked him, why do you play so hard every single game? He goes, because there might be somebody here that's never seen me play before. And I just thought, it's cool responsibility, the way to look at your craft. And martial arts is our craft,
Yeah. That's so true. And that's something we try to impress upon our leadership team, because a lot of times they come in and they're having a bad day at school or at work or whatever is going on outside the gym, and they kind of carry it onto the mats, and their demeanor and their body, and I have to tell them, hey, when you come in here, when you bow in, like, you have to take everything that's on your mind and put it aside.
Yeah.
That's the therapy of it.
And that's the magic of it too. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that happened to me when I had a really bad day and walked in, and take one step onto that mat and the whole world disappears.
And then, like I always tell people, you just about always feel better when you're leaving. If you've got the discipline to show up, you always feel better. Even if, you've done 10 rounds with Greek and bleeding and such. And still felt better. I survived it.
That would make a great shirt.
Golden Greek was, but he was the best karate man Texas ever.
He's talking
ever
about
had.
Demetrius Vanis.
I don't know if you guys know who he is or anything, but he was something. He made Bruce Lee look sloppy. Look him up. Yeah. Anyway.
No, but I really like what you said about you always feel better leaving the mats. I feel like we have a cool shirt with that on the back, and that would sell.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
you
A lot
do.
of kids And adults too, like, they don't want to go because of whatever, they had a hard day at work or they're feeling a little lazy. But every time you leave the mats, man, you feel so good. And that's a good thing to remind people of,
Yeah, I used to really like it, like on Saturday mornings. If someone comes in for a Saturday morning class, the rest of their day, they're going to feel like they accomplished something already
Yeah.
and have this feeling of
Energized.
relaxation that came because they did karate.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pretty amazing stuff, isn't it?
That is a great note to end on. We could keep talking. There's a lot of things on
I'm
this.
sorry I talked so much.
No, that's what we're looking for. And we really appreciate all the stories. Those were hilarious and just put things in perspective for our students, because I think, a lot of beginners think it's all, they see demonstration from the outside. They don't see it from the inside. They don't see the nitty gritty and the dirty work that needs to be done to become good. And, even the best in the world, when that team came over here from Hanguche to Hakio, they weren't breaking boards every time. There were a few boards that were left up there that they missed or weren't able to
Sure.
stuff, and people just kind of throw them to the side and keep moving on. And so even the best of the best, make mistakes, and
that's okay. And they need to know that that's okay.
exactly.
It's like Mr. Rogers trying to put the tent together and can't put it together. And he's like, this is a great show because life doesn't always work. There's lessons there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And when it comes to the Kirbys, we've learned lots of lessons. We don't like to talk.
Especially in a world where everything seems so perfect, I feel like it's always really important to remind people that we're human and we make mistakes, and that's how everything is made and done.
Sure.
Well, I've sure enjoyed talking with you guys.
Me too.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you
to
for
meet you.
having us.
very nice to meet you guys. We wish you the best of luck. Are you guys both now retired, or are you?
Well,
Kind of, sort of.
semi. I have sold my school.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm keeping the self-defense part of it so that I teach women self-defense, as that's my kind of side hustle business thing. And that's
niche.
growing, and
Good.
he's helping with that. And a couple of my black belts have decided that they want to continue our legacy, and the school that took over is a different kind of a style. So they've opened schools themselves. And so we're working with them, helping them get,
Nice.
yeah,
We're always,
he's still teaching.
we're lifetime martial artists,
We're
whether
not
it's
going
full-time.
anywhere.
Never really retire, do you? You always got to keep at it. Well, that's great. More power to you guys, and wish you the best of
Thank
luck.
you so much.
We get to Austin, we'll come
Thanks for
see you
having
guys.
Absolutely. I want to see you guys come in. We'll
Yes,
introduce
do.
you to students. We'll drag you
We
out.
I'd
have
of
love that.
We have a dojo in the backyard, so
Hey, y'all have a great day.
thank you.
Take care.
You too.
If you enjoyed that podcast, please consider liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel, as well as hitting the notification bell. We offer in-person, group, and private lessons at our facility in Kyle, Texas, as well as virtual lessons anywhere in the world. If you'd like to learn more about our programs, you can find us online at risingphoenixtkd.com.